Captain Hansal looked out at the endless black space through the bridge window of his ship. The stars looked the same as they always did, tiny points of light scattered across the darkness. He had been staring at stars for 15 years now, and they never got boring. His ship was called the Serenity. It was not the newest ship in the human fleet, and it was not the prettiest. The hull had scratches and dents from years of travel. Some of the paint was peeling off. But Hansal loved this ship like it was his own child. "Captain, we are approaching the target system," said Tejo from his position at the navigation controls. Tejo was young, maybe 25 years old, but he had a gift for finding paths through space that others could not see. Hansal trusted him completely. "Good work, Tejo. Take us in slowly. We do not want to miss anything important." The Serenity moved forward through space toward 3 planets orbiting a yellow star. Earth had sent them here to look for minerals and metals that could be useful. It was supposed to be a simple job. Go to the system, scan the planets, take some samples, and return home. Down in the engine room, Yuri was working on the power systems. She was the best engineer Hansal had ever worked with. The woman could fix anything with just spare parts and determination. She was also the only person who could make their old ship run like it was brand new. "Yuri, how are the engines doing?" Hansal asked through the communication system. "They are running perfectly, Captain. I just finished checking all the systems. We are ready for anything." Hansal smiled. Yuri always said they were ready for anything. She had been saying it for 3 years, and so far she had been right every time. The Serenity entered the system and began scanning the first planet. It was a dead world covered in red dust. The second planet was too hot, with a surface of melted rock. But the third planet looked promising. It had water and an atmosphere, though no signs of life. "Captain, I am detecting something strange," Tejo said suddenly. His voice sounded worried. "What kind of strange?" "There are ships approaching us, big ships. I count at least 5 of them." Hansal felt his heart start beating faster. Earth had never found any other intelligent life in space. Humans had been alone as far as they knew. But now, suddenly, they were not alone anymore. "Show me," Hansal ordered. The main screen lit up with images of the approaching ships. They were unlike anything humans had ever built. The ships looked like they were made of crystal and metal, with smooth curves and strange angles. They were also much larger than the Serenity. "They are trying to communicate with us," Tejo reported. "I think they want to talk. Put them through." The screen changed to show the face of an alien creature. It had skin that looked like crystal with eyes that glowed blue. When it spoke, its voice was deep and harsh. "Small mammals," the creature sighed. "You will surrender your vessel immediately. You have entered the territory of the Vorthic Empire without permission." Hansal tried to stay calm. This was first contact with an alien species. Everything he said and did would be remembered in history books. "I am Captain Hansal of the human ship Serenity. We come in peace. We did not know this was your territory. We are explorers from the planet Earth." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter, but it was not friendly. "Humans, yes, we have heard of your species. You are primitives who barely know how to travel between stars. I am Commander Velthic of the Vorthek War Fleet. You will surrender now, or we will destroy you. We do not wish to fight," Hansal said. "But we also will not surrender. We have done nothing wrong. You exist, that is wrong enough. Your species is spreading like a disease through space. We are here to clean up the galaxy." The communication ended. The alien ships began moving closer to the Serenity. "Captain, they are charging weapons," Tejo said. His voice was steady, but Hansal could see the fear in his eyes. "Yuri, I need everything you can give me from the engines. You have it, Captain. But those ships are bigger and stronger than us." "Maybe, but they do not know how humans fight." The first alien ship fired. A beam of bright energy shot across space toward the Serenity. Hansal ordered Tejo to turn the ship hard to the left. The energy beam missed by just a few meters. "Return?" "Fire," Hansal ordered. The Serenity fired back with its kinetic cannons. These were not energy weapons like the aliens used. Instead, they shot pieces of metal at incredible speed. The aliens probably thought human weapons were primitive and weak. They were wrong. The metal projectiles smashed into the alien ships. Oh. The aliens had energy shields, but the shields were designed to stop energy beams, not solid objects moving at high speed. The projectiles punched right through. Direct hit, Tejo reported with surprise. Their shields did not stop our weapons. More alien ships opened fire. The Serenity shook as energy beams hit its hull. But unlike the alien ships, the Serenity did not rely on shields for protection. Instead, it had thick armor plating made of steel and ceramic. The energy beams burned through some of the armor, but they did not destroy the ship. Hull breach on Deck 3, Yuri reported. But I can seal it. We are still in the fight. The battle continued for 20 minutes. The alien ships were faster and had better weapons, but they could not understand why the primitive human ship would not die. Every time they thought they had destroyed it, the Serenity kept fighting. Captain, we cannot win this fight, Tejo said. There are too many of them. Hansal knew Tejo was right. But he also knew that humans did not give up easily. Plot a course through that asteroid field, he ordered, pointing to a cluster of rocks near the third planet. Captain, that is suicide. No ship can navigate through there safely. No alien ship can navigate through there safely, but we are human. We do things differently. Tejo looked at his captain for a moment, then smiled. Course plotted, Captain. The Serenity turned toward the asteroid field. The alien ships followed, confident they would finally destroy the annoying human vessel. But as they entered the field, they discovered something important about humans. Humans were crazy. The Serenity twisted and turned through the asteroids like it was dancing. Tejo guided the ship through gaps that seemed too small for anything to pass through. The alien ships, larger and less maneuverable, crashed into asteroids or had to slow down to avoid collisions. We are clear of the field, Tejo announced. Set. Course for home, maximum speed, Hansal ordered. And send a message to Earth? Priority 1? As the Serenity jumped into hyperspace, Hansal began recording his report. Earth needed to know what had happened here. Humans were no longer alone in the galaxy, and the galaxy was not friendly. This is Captain Hansal of the exploration vessel Serenity. We have made first contact with an alien species called the Vorthik Empire. They are hostile. They view humans as a threat to be eliminated. Earth must prepare for war. The message would take weeks to reach Earth, but when it arrived, everything would change. Humanity would learn that the galaxy was a dangerous place, full of enemies who would never accept them, but the galaxy would also learn something about humans. They would learn that humans did not surrender easily. They would learn that humans could be very dangerous when cornered. Most importantly, they would learn that humans should never be underestimated. 3 months had passed since Captain Hansal escaped from the Vorthak ships. Far away from human space, in a massive space station that orbited a dying star, the Galactic Council was meeting. The station was older than human civilization. It had been the center of galactic government for thousands of years. 12 different alien species sat around a circular table made of black stone. Each species looked completely different from the others. Some had multiple arms, others had no arms at all. Some breathed oxygen like humans, others needed different gases to survive. But they all had one thing in common. They had ruled the galaxy for a very long time. Kethvar, a Vorthik intelligence officer, stood before the council. His crystal skin reflected the lights in the chamber as he prepared to give his report. He was nervous, which was unusual for a Vorthik warrior. Honored council members, Kethvar began. I must report on a new threat in Sector 7. A species called humans has begun expanding into our territory. Council leader Zendar, an ancient being with gray skin and 6 eyes, looked bored. Humans, yes, we have records of this species. They are classified as Level 3 primitives, barely above Stone Age technology. Why do you waste our time with this? Respected council leader, I believe our classification may be incorrect. Commander Velthic encountered a human vessel 3 months ago. The encounter did not go as expected. Explain, rumbled Mordock from the back of the chamber. Mordock was huge, even sitting down. He represented the Titan Collective, a species of giants who served as the Council's military force. Kethvar touched a control panel. Holographic images appeared above the table, showing the battle between the Serenity and the Vorthak ships. As you can see, the human vessel was outnumbered 5-1. It was also much smaller than our ships. By all logic, it should have been destroyed in minutes. The council members watched the images with growing interest. They saw the human ship dodge energy beams and return fire with primitive kinetic weapons. They saw it survive hits that should have destroyed it completely. Their weapons are crude, observed Velmar, a tall, thin alien with blue skin. Simple metal projectiles, no energy technology at all. Yes, Counselor, but their weapons were effective against our shields. Our defensive systems were not designed to stop solid projectiles. A design flaw in Vorthak technology, Zendar said. Dismissively, not evidence of human superiority. Kethvar continued the presentation. The Council watched as the human ship escaped through the asteroid field, performing maneuvers that seemed impossible. No other species in the galaxy would attempt such a navigation path, Kethvar explained. The risk of collision was over 90%, yet the humans succeeded. Mordock leaned forward, his massive form casting shadows across the table. You are suggesting that these primitives are a threat to the established order? I'm suggesting that we may have underestimated their capabilities, General Mordock. The council members looked at each other. Some seemed concerned, others appeared amused. They had ruled the galaxy for so long that the idea of a new threat seemed ridiculous. What do you recommend? Asked Zendar. A small patrol fleet should be sufficient, Mordock said, standing up to his full height of 4 meters. 10 ships, maybe 15. We will eliminate their few colonies before they can spread further. The galaxy will be clean again. While the Council discussed how to destroy humanity, on Earth something very different was happening. Admiral Dalyun stood in the command center of the Global Defense Initiative, reading Captain Hansal's report for the 10th time. The words did not get any better with repeated reading. Dive 5, years old and had served in 3 different wars on Earth. She knew what it meant when a more powerful enemy decided you were a threat. It meant you had very little time to prepare for the fight of your life. Status report, she ordered her staff. Colonel Minho, her second-in-command, stepped forward. All military forces are on high alert. We have recalled every ship from deep space missions. Total available vessels, 43. Weapons and supplies? We have enough ammunition for maybe 2 major battles. Our ships were designed for exploration and research, not warfare. Most of our weapons are mining tools or asteroid defense systems. You nodded grimly. What about our colonies? 17 established colonies, plus mining stations and research outposts. Total population outside Earth, about 2 million people. The numbers were not encouraging. Humanity had spread to nearby star systems, but they were still a young spacefaring species. Their technology was primitive compared to what Captain Hansal had described. Their military was designed to fight other humans. Not advanced aliens, but Dalyun remembered something her grandfather had told her about the old wars on Earth. It does not matter how big the enemy is, he had said. What matters is whether you are willing to do whatever it takes to survive. Send messages to all colony governors, Dune ordered. Full mobilization, every person, every resource, everything we have. And send a priority message to the research stations. I want every scientist working on one project. How to fight enemies with better technology than us. On the outer colonies, people were already beginning to prepare. Haiyan-Wu ran a farming colony on New Bazen, a planet 40 light-years from Earth. When he received the mobilization order, he gathered all the colonists in the main hall. Friends, he said to the crowd of 300 people. Earth has told us that aliens are coming. Hostile aliens who want to kill us all. The crowd murmured with fear and anger. These were tough people who had left Earth to build new lives. On distant worlds, they were not used to being afraid. "What do we do?" asked Minji, who ran the colony's medical center. "We fight," Haiyan-Wu said simply. "We do what humans have always done when someone tries to destroy us. We refuse to die quietly." Within hours, the farming equipment was being converted into weapons. Tractors became mobile gun platforms. Fertilizer became explosive compounds. The greenhouse domes were reinforced to serve as bunkers. Similar preparations were happening on every human world. Mining colonies began producing military-grade explosives. Research stations started developing new technologies. Trading posts became supply depots for the coming war. Back on the Galactic Council station, the meeting was ending. The Council had made their decision with typical arrogance. "Send the patrol fleet to human space," Zendar announced. "Eliminate this minor irritation before it becomes a real problem." "How long should this take, General Mordock?" 2 weeks at most, Council Leader. Possibly less if they surrender quickly." "Good. Next item on the agenda?" As the Council moved on to other business, none of them realized they had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. They had decided to attack a species they did not understand. Using assumptions that were completely wrong, the humans were not like other species in the galaxy. Most alien civilizations had reached space through cooperation and peaceful development. They fought wars, but their wars were civilized affairs with rules and honor. Humans were different. They had reached space despite being at war with themselves for their entire history. Every human innovation, every technological advance, every tactical doctrine had been tested in battle against other humans. They had spent thousands of years learning how to fight enemies who were just as smart, just as determined, and just as creative as they were. The Council was about to learn what happened when you underestimated a species that had been preparing for war since they first learned to make tools. The galaxy was about to discover why humans should never be taken lightly. The patrol fleet would arrive at human space in 6 weeks. Admiral Dayan looked at the countdown timer on her screen and wondered if it would be enough time. She had a feeling they were about to find out what humans were really capable of when their survival was at stake. 6 weeks after the Galactic Council's decision, 30 Vorthek warships dropped out of hyperspace near the human colony of New Bizon Fleet. Commander Zorthek stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the primitive human settlement through the viewing screen. The planet looked peaceful. Small cities dotted the surface, connected by roads and communication lines. Farming areas stretched between the settlements. It looked exactly like what it was supposed to be, a simple agricultural colony with no military value. "Scan for defensive installations," Zorthek ordered his weapons officer. "Sir, I detect some orbital platforms and a few small patrol ships. Nothing that could threaten our fleet." Zorthek nodded with satisfaction. This would be even easier than the Council had predicted. 30 advanced warships against a farming planet with minimal defenses. The battle would be over in minutes. "Open a communication channel to the planet. Let us give them a chance to surrender before we destroy them." The communication screen activated, showing the face of a human military officer. The human looked young, maybe 40 years old, with short black hair and determined eyes. "I am Admiral Dayan of the Human Defense Force," the human said. "You are not welcome in our space. Leave immediately or face the consequences." Zorthek laughed. The sound echoed through the bridge, and his officers joined in. A primitive human was threatening 30 Vorthek warships. "I am Fleet Commander Zorthek of the Vorthek Empire. You will surrender your colony immediately. Any resistance will result in the complete destruction of your world." "We do not surrender," Dayan replied simply. "If you want this world, you will have to take it." The communication ended. Zorthek shook his head in amazement. These humans were either very brave or very stupid, probably both. "All ships prepare for battle. Target the orbital platforms first, then the settlements. Make this quick and clean." What Zorthek did not know was that Admiral Dayan was not speaking from the planet's surface. She was aboard the human battleship Sol, hidden behind one of New Bizon's moons along with 15 other human vessels. The human ships were not impressive to look at. They were boxy, ugly things covered in thick armor plating. They had been built quickly in Earth shipyards, using every piece of military technology humanity could gather. Mining lasers had been converted to weapons. Construction equipment had been turned into armor. Cargo haulers had been rebuilt as warships. All ships, this is Admiral Dune. Remember what we practiced? Hit hard and fast, then get out. Do not try to match them ship for ship. We fight smart, not fair. The human fleet moved out from behind the moon. Zorthak's sensors detected them immediately. Sir, 15 human vessels approaching from our rear. They appear to be military ships? Zorthak turned to face the new threat. The human ships were small compared to his vessels, and they looked like they had been built in a scrapyard. Their weapons were primitive kinetic cannons and modified mining equipment. Turn the fleet around. Let us finish this quickly. The battle began with the Vorthak ships firing their plasma cannons. Beams of superheated energy shot across space toward the human vessels. The first few hits struck the human ship Daegu directly in the center. Zorthak expected to see the ship explode immediately. Instead, the Daegu kept flying. Its thick armor absorbed most of the energy, and the ship returned fire with a barrage of kinetic projectiles. The metal slugs smashed into the Vorthak ships. Energy shields, but the shields held. Sir, their weapons are not penetrating our defenses, the weapons officer reported. Continue firing, concentrate on one ship at a time. But the humans were not fighting the way Zorthak expected. Instead of forming a battle line like civilized species, they scattered in all directions. They flew in unpredictable patterns, making it hard to target them accurately. When one ship was damaged, another would move to protect it. The human ship Inchin took a direct hit that destroyed half its hull. Any other species would have retreated or surrendered. Instead, Captain Jamin turned his dying ship directly toward the nearest Vorthak vessel. This is Captain Jamin to all ships. Tell my family I died fighting. Sol Actual, you are clear to fire. The Inchin rammed into the Vorthak cruiser at full speed. Both ships exploded in a brilliant flash of light. The explosion was so powerful that it damaged two other Vorthak vessels nearby. Zorthak stared at the destruction in shock. Did that human just sacrifice his entire ship to destroy one of ours? Yes, sir. The ship deliberately collided with the cruiser Velstorm. Both vessels are destroyed. This was not how space battles were supposed to work. In civilized warfare, ships retreated when they were damaged. Crews surrendered when their situation was hopeless. They did not ram their ships into the enemy like guided missiles. The battle continued, and the humans kept doing things that made no sense. When their main weapons were destroyed, they used their engines as weapons, flying close to Vorthak ships and burning them with rocket exhaust. When their ships were cut in half, the surviving sections kept fighting as separate vessels. The human ship Bizin lost its entire front section to a plasma blast. The rear section, with only engines and life support, should have surrendered immediately. Instead, it loaded its cargo bay with explosive mining charges and rammed another Vorthak ship. The explosion destroyed both vessels. Sir, we have lost 8 ships, the tactical officer reported. The humans have lost 12 ships, but they are still fighting. Zorthak could not believe what he was hearing. His fleet was winning, but they were paying a terrible price. Every human ship they destroyed took at least one Vorthak vessel with it. The human ship Sol, Admiral Odalyun's flagship, had taken heavy damage but was still fighting. Its armor was melted and twisted, its weapons were mostly destroyed, and atmosphere was leaking from dozens of holes in the hull. Admiral, we need to retreat, her first officer said. We cannot win this battle. We are not trying to win, Dayun replied calmly. We are trying to teach them a lesson. The Sol fired its last functioning weapon, a mining laser that had been overcharged far beyond safe limits. The beam cut through a Vorthak destroyer like a sword through paper. The human ship then turned and limped away toward the edge of the system. The remaining human ships followed, those that could still fly. 3 human vessels had survived the battle, all of them heavily damaged. Zorthak watched them go and did not pursue. His fleet had won, but it did not feel like victory. He had started the battle with 30 ships and ended it with 22. 8 of his vessels had been destroyed by an enemy that was supposed to be primitive and weak. "Sir, should we proceed with the bombardment of the planet?" his weapons officer asked. Orthak looked at the peaceful farming world below. After what he had just witnessed, he was not sure he wanted to find out what the colonists on the surface might do if attacked. "No, we return to base. I need to report this to the Council immediately." As the Vorthic fleet jumped back into hyperspace, the human colonists on New Bizan emerged from their hidden bunkers. They had watched the entire battle, and were ready to fight if the aliens had landed. Every farmer, every worker, every child over the age of 12 had been armed and trained. They were disappointed that they had not gotten the chance to show the aliens what humans could do on the ground. Admiral Dayun sent her report to Earth. From the badly damaged Sol, the message was short and simple. First battle complete. Enemy forces retreated, casualties heavy but acceptable. The galaxy now knows we will fight. The Galactic Council would receive Zorthak's confused report in a few days. They would learn that their simple extermination mission had turned into a costly battle against an enemy that fought like no other species in the galaxy, but they would also learn something else. The humans had not just fought back. They had fought back with a savage determination that terrified experienced warriors. The galaxy was beginning to understand that humans were different, and that difference made them very dangerous. 3 months after the battle at New Bizan, the galaxy was buzzing with rumors. Stories spread from system to system about the strange humans who fought like madmen and refused to surrender. Most species did not believe the stories. Surely no primitive race could cause serious damage to a Vorthak fleet, but in the secret laboratories of Earth, something remarkable was happening. Chief Engineer Yuri, promoted to head of the Human Engineering Corps, stood before a table covered with alien technology. Pieces of destroyed Vorthic ships had been recovered from the battlefield and brought to Earth for study. "What have we learned?" asked Dr. Sungho, the lead scientist on the project. He was a thin man with thick glasses who had spent his life studying physics and engineering. Yuri picked up a piece of crystalline metal from the table. "Their hull material is incredibly strong, but it has a weakness. It shatters when hit with rapid temperature changes. Our thermal weapons could be very effective." "What about their energy shields?" "Fascinating technology. The shields can stop energy weapons and some projectiles, but they use a lot of power. If we can overload them with multiple impacts, they will fail." Dr. Suho nodded and made notes on his tablet. "What about their computers and control systems?" "This is interesting," Yuri said, holding up a damaged control panel. "Their technology is very advanced, but it is also very complex. Their systems can do amazing things, but they are vulnerable to interference. Our simple computers might actually be an advantage." While the engineers studied alien technology, military leaders were developing new tactics. Colonel Biora had been put in charge of tactical development. She was a small woman with sharp eyes who had fought in the Earth-Moon War 20 years earlier. "Traditional space combat will not work," she told her staff. "The aliens have better ships and weapons. We need to fight differently." "What do you suggest, Colonel?" asked Major Kyung-soo. "We use every advantage we have. Our ships are tougher and our crews are more determined. Our weapons may be primitive, but they work in ways the aliens do not expect. Most importantly, we are willing to do things other species will not do." Or activated a holographic display showing various battle scenarios: hit and run attacks, ambush from asteroid fields, suicide attacks when necessary. "We make them afraid to enter our space." On the colony world of New Sol, the entire population was working to turn their planet into a fortress. Engineer Wu Jin supervised the construction of underground bunkers and hidden weapon platforms. Every building had been designed to serve as a fighting position if needed. "How many people can the bunker system hold?" asked Dr. Haijin, who ran the colony's medical facilities. "All 50,000 colonists plus supplies for 6 months," Wu Jin replied. But we are not planning to hide, we are planning to fight. The surface of New Seoul looked peaceful, but appearances were deceiving. Hidden beneath farms and forests were missile launchers, particle beam weapons, and manufacturing facilities. The entire planet had become a military base disguised as a civilian colony. Similar preparations were happening throughout human space. Mining colonies had converted their equipment to produce military supplies. Research stations were developing new weapons and defensive systems. Even civilian ships were being modified for combat. Dr. Sung-ho made a breakthrough that would change everything. Working with captured alien technology, he discovered that human computers had an unexpected advantage. While alien systems were faster and more powerful, they were also more vulnerable to electronic interference. Our primitive computers are actually better in some ways, he explained to Admiral Dayun during a video conference. Alien systems are designed for perfect conditions. When things go wrong, they fail completely. Our systems are designed to work even when damaged. Can we use this against them? Yes, we can build electronic warfare systems that will confuse their targeting computers and communication networks. We can also use our ships as command centers for mixed fleets of human and captured alien vessels. The breakthrough came at the perfect time. Admiral Dayun had been receiving reports that the aliens were preparing a much larger attack. Intelligence suggested that over 100 enemy ships were gathering for a massive assault on human space, but humans had not been idle. In shipyards around Earth and the colonies, new vessels were being built. These were not the converted civilian ships that had fought at New Bizen. These were purpose-built warships, designed using everything humans had learned about their enemies. The new ships still looked ugly and primitive compared to alien vessels, but they were deadly. They carried kinetic weapons that could punch through energy shields, armor that could absorb massive damage, and electronic warfare systems that could blind enemy sensors. Captain Hansal, the explorer who had first encountered the Vorthek, now commanded one of these new ships. The destroyer Taekwondo was his first military command, and he was determined to prove that humans could adapt to any challenge. Status report, he ordered as his ship prepared for its first combat mission. Oh. Systems operational, Captain, reported his new tactical officer, Lieutenant Su-jin. Weapons loaded, armor sealed, electronic warfare systems ready. Good, remember, we are not trying to match them ship for ship. We are trying to teach them that attacking humans is more trouble than it is worth. The Taekwondo was part of a new human strategy. Instead of waiting for the aliens to attack human colonies, human ships would strike first at alien supply lines and communication networks. They would make the galaxy too dangerous for alien ships to travel safely. The first target was a Vorthek supply convoy traveling through neutral space. Intelligence reported 12 cargo ships protected by 6 warships. Under normal circumstances, it would be suicide for one human destroyer to attack such a force, but circumstances were no longer normal. The Taekwondo approached the convoy from the shadow of a dead moon, using the natural gravity to mask its sensor signature. When it was close enough, it launched a spread of kinetic torpedoes while simultaneously activating its electronic warfare systems. The Vorthak ships found their sensors filled with false targets and their communications jammed. The kinetic torpedoes, moving at nearly the speed of light, smashed into the convoy before the escorts could react. 3 cargo ships were destroyed immediately, and 2 more were crippled. The Vorthak warships tried to return fire, but their targeting systems could not lock onto the human ship. The Taekwondo used the confusion to launch a second attack, this time targeting the escort vessels themselves. When the battle was over, the entire convoy had been destroyed. The Taekwondo had taken only minor damage and was already jumping to hyperspace before Vorthak reinforcements could arrive. Similar attacks were happening throughout the galaxy. Human ships appeared without warning, struck hard, and vanished before the enemy could respond. Supply convoys disappeared. Communication stations were destroyed. Isolated alien ships simply vanished. The psychological effect was devastating. Alien crews became afraid to travel alone. They demanded larger escorts for their convoys. They jumped at shadows and fired at sensor ghosts. For the first time in galactic history, a primitive species was making advanced civilizations afraid. Commander Velfak, who had survived the first encounter with Captain Hansal, received orders to lead a patrol fleet through human space. The mission was supposed to demonstrate Vorthak's strength and restore confidence. Instead, it became a nightmare. Human ships attacked from asteroid fields, struck from behind planets, and vanished into hyperspace before his fleet could respond. Over 2 weeks, he lost 4 ships and never even saw most of his attackers. "These humans fight like ghosts," he reported to his superiors. "They appear, strike, and disappear. We cannot predict their movements or counter their tactics." The report reached the Galactic Council just as they were preparing to launch their massive assault on human space. General Mordock read the intelligence reports with growing concern. "Perhaps we should reconsider our approach," he suggested to Council Leader Zendar. "These humans are proving more dangerous than expected." "Nonsense," Zendar replied. "They are primitives with a few lucky victories. Our main fleet will crush them completely." But privately, Zendar was beginning to worry. The humans were not behaving like other species. Most civilizations fought defensively, trying to protect their territory and populations. Humans were fighting offensively, taking the war to their enemies even when outnumbered. It was a strategy that could only work if an entire species was willing to sacrifice everything for victory. The question was, were humans really that determined? The galaxy was about to find out. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was called after the Vorthak Second Fleet retreated in complete disorder. Fleet Commander Zorthak had left human space with only half his ships. REPORTNG that the humans had somehow learned to fight? Like veterans in just a few months, Counselor Velmar stood before the assembled representatives, holding a datapad filled with disturbing reports. The tall blue alien's usual calm demeanor was nowhere to be seen. "Honored council members," Velmar began, "we have a serious problem. The human situation has escalated far beyond our original assessment." Council Leader Zendar leaned forward in his ancient chair, explained, "The humans are not just defending their territory anymore. They are actively hunting our ships throughout the galaxy. In the past month, we have lost 37 vessels to human attacks. Supply convoys, patrol ships, even communication stations have been destroyed." The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. General Mordock's massive form shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "How is this possible?" demanded Counselor Thekra, representative of the merchant guilds. "Our reports say humans have fewer than 50 ships total." "That is correct," Velmar replied. "But they are using those ships in ways we never expected. They strike without warning, often sacrificing themselves to destroy our vessels. They use tactics that no civilized species would consider." "Give us examples," Zendar ordered. Velmar activated a holographic display showing recent battle reports. 3 days ago, a single human destroyer attacked a Vorthak supply convoy of 18 ships. Instead of engaging in normal combat, the human ship rammed the lead vessel while simultaneously detonating its entire ammunition supply. The explosion destroyed 12 ships in the convoy. "Suicide attacks," General Mordock rumbled. "Barbaric. But effective," Velmar continued. 2 weeks ago, human ships attacked the communication relay at Sector 9. When our reinforcements arrived, they found the station destroyed and strange devices attached to our own ships. The devices were bombs planted by human boarding parties. We lost 6 vessels before we discovered them. The council members looked at each other with growing alarm. This was not how wars were supposed to be fought. Civilized species followed rules. They protected civilians, respected surrender, and fought with honor. These humans seemed to follow no rules at all. "There is more," Velmar said grimly. "Our intelligence services have discovered something disturbing about human history. These creatures have been at war with themselves for their entire existence. Every technological advancement, every tactical innovation, every strategic doctrine has been tested in combat against equally intelligent opponents." "What does that mean?" asked Counselor Zeraith. It means that while other species develop space travel through cooperation and peace, humans reach the stars through conflict and competition. They know how to fight in ways we do not understand because they have been fighting each other for thousands of years. The implications were staggering. Most galactic species had achieved interstellar travel by working together, sharing resources, and avoiding conflict. Wars between civilized races were rare and usually brief. The idea of a species that had perfected warfare against itself was terrifying. Dr. Limvar, the Council's chief xenobiologist, stood to address the chamber. I have been studying human psychology and culture. What we are seeing is not unusual behavior for this species. Humans have a documented history of fighting impossible odds and winning through sheer determination. Examples? Zendar demanded. In their recorded history, small groups of humans have regularly defeated much larger forces through superior tactics, better motivation, and willingness to sacrifice everything for victory. They have a saying, never give up, never surrender. This appears to be a fundamental part of their nature. The chamber fell silent as the council members absorbed this information. They were facing an enemy unlike any they had encountered before. An enemy that would not surrender, would not negotiate, and would not stop fighting until either they or their opponents were completely destroyed. What do you recommend? Zendar asked. General Mordock stood to his full imposing height. We crush them completely. Deploy the main battle fleet. Every ship, every weapon, every resource we have. Destroy their colonies, their homeworld, everything. Leave nothing alive? And if that fails? Volmar asked quietly. It will not fail. We have over 3,000 ships in the main fleet. Even these savage humans cannot stand against such force. But, even as Mordock spoke, he felt a nagging doubt. The humans had already proven that numbers alone were not enough. They fought differently, thought differently, and refused to follow the normal rules of warfare. Meanwhile, in human space, Admiral Dayun was receiving reports from her intelligence network. The news was both good and bad. Good because the human attacks were working, disrupting alien supply lines and communications. Bad because the aliens were preparing a massive retaliation. How many ships are they sending? She asked Colonel Minho. Our best estimate is 3,000 vessels, including their largest dreadnoughts and planet-killer weapons. They are calling it the final solution, Dayun nodded grimly. She had expected this. When you hurt a bully, they either backed down or came back with everything they had. The aliens had chosen the latter option. Status of our forces? 87 ships operational, including the new construction. All colonies are fortified and ready for siege warfare. We have also received some unexpected help. What kind of help? Colonel Minho activated a communication screen. The face that appeared belonged to an alien, but not one of the species in the Galactic Council. This creature had fur and large eyes with a gentle expression that seemed almost sad. I am Ambassador Wektul of the Resistance Coalition, the alien said. We represent 23 species that have been oppressed by the Council for centuries. We offer alliance with humanity. Dayun had heard rumors of species that opposed the Council's rule, but she had never expected them to make contact openly. What can you offer us? She asked. Ships, weapons, intelligence, and most importantly, proof that you are not alone. The galaxy contains many species that believe the Council's tyranny must end. Your courage in fighting them has given us hope. The alliance changed everything. Suddenly, humanity was not fighting alone against the entire galaxy. They were part of a larger resistance movement that had been waiting for someone brave enough to strike the first blow. More species joined the coalition every day. The Kethari, master engineers who had been forced to build weapons for the Council. The Plentok, brilliant scientists whose research had been stolen and used against them. The Voarani, traders who had been taxed into poverty to fund the Councils. Military, each species brought something valuable to the Alliance. Technology, resources, intelligence, and most importantly, the will to fight for freedom. But the humans brought something none of the other species possessed, the absolute refusal to surrender no matter how hopeless the situation appeared. As The Council's massive fleet prepared to invade human space. Resistance cells throughout the galaxy began their own preparations. For the first time in galactic history, the established order faced organized opposition from multiple species working together. The stage was set for the largest space battle in galactic history. On one side, the Council's 3,000 ships, representing the old order of oppression and control. On the other side, humanity and its allies representing the hope for freedom and self-determination, but numbers alone would not determine the outcome. The real question was whether the galaxy was ready for the kind of total war that humans had been preparing for their entire existence. Admiral Dayun looked out at the stars and wondered if they would still be shining when the battle was over. She had a feeling the galaxy was about to learn what humans really meant. When they said they would never surrender, the Council had made a fundamental mistake. They thought they were fighting a war to eliminate a troublesome species. Humans knew. They were fighting a war for the survival of everything they loved. The difference in motivation would prove decisive. The Worldbreaker was the largest ship ever built by the Galactic Council. It was 30 kilometers long, armed with weapons that could crack planets and protected by shields that had never been penetrated. General Mordock stood on its bridge, looking out at the 3,000 ships of the Council fleet. This was the largest military force in galactic history. Every major species had contributed ships, weapons, and crews. The combined firepower could destroy entire solar systems. Nothing could stand against such overwhelming force. "General, we are approaching the human homeworld," reported the navigation officer. "Excellent. Open communication channels to the planet. Let us give them one final chance to surrender." The communication screen activated, showing the face of Admiral Dune. She looked tired but determined, standing on the bridge of a ship that appeared to be in the middle of a battle. "General Mordock," she said calmly, "I see you brought some friends." "Admiral Yun, I am here to offer you terms of surrender. Your species has fought bravely, but this ends now. Surrender, and your people will be relocated to reservation worlds. Continue to resist, and we will sterilize every human world in the galaxy." Yun smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. "General, you still do not understand what you are dealing with. Humans do not surrender. We never have, and we never will." "Then you have chosen extinction. The Worldbreaker will destroy your homeworld in 1 hour. Use that time to make peace with whatever gods you worship." The communication ended. Mordock turned to his weapons officer. "Begin charging the planet killer weapon, maximum power." On Earth, alarms were sounding in cities around the world. Billions of people looked up at the sky, knowing that death was approaching from space. But instead of panic, there was grim determination. They had all known this day might come. In the orbital defense stations, Commander Kyung-soo prepared his forces for the final battle. He had 43 ships, most of them damaged from previous fights. Against 3,000 enemy vessels, they had no chance of victory, but victory was not the plan. Dr. Sung-ho sat in his laboratory, making final adjustments to the quantum communication array. This device would send a signal to every human ship, every human colony, every human outpost across the galaxy. The message would be simple: remember Earth. Admiral Dayun stood on the bridge of her flagship, the rebuilt Soul. Around her, the crew worked calmly at their stations. They all knew they were about to die, but they also knew their sacrifice would have meaning. "Signal from Dr. Sung-ho," reported the communications officer. "The quantum array is ready." "Good. Send the message to all human forces. Operation Remember Earth is now active." Across the galaxy, human ships received the signal simultaneously. On mining colonies, patrol vessels, and hidden bases, human crews looked at their orders and nodded grimly. They had been preparing for this moment for months. Captain Hansal read the message aboard his ship. "The Taekwondo, currently hiding in an asteroid field near a major vortex supply depot." His crew looked at him expectantly. "You all know what this means," he said quietly. "Earth is under attack. We may not be able to save our homeworld, but we can make the enemy pay a price they will never forget." Similar scenes played out on dozens of human ships throughout the galaxy. The plan was simple and terrible: simultaneous attacks on every enemy target within reach. Supply depots, communication centers, military bases, even civilian infrastructure. Nothing would be spared. At the Council's main communication hub, the morning shift was beginning their routine work when alarms suddenly began screaming. Explosions echoed through the massive station as human demolition charges, planted weeks earlier, detonated simultaneously. The Kethari supply depot at Sector 12 vanished in a nuclear fireball as a human freighter, loaded with stolen military explosives, rammed the facility at maximum speed. The Vorthak fleet base at New Crystalline found itself under attack by a joint human resistance force that had been hiding in the system's outer asteroid belt for 2 months. Across the galaxy, the carefully maintained infrastructure of the Council's empire began to crumble. Communication networks failed. Supply lines collapsed. Military bases went silent, but the most devastating attack was yet to come. Captain Yuri, now commanding the converted cargo ship Taekwondo II, led a desperate assault on the Worldbreaker itself. Her plan was insane: penetrate the massive ship's defenses and detonate nuclear weapons inside the planet killer's firing chamber. All ships, this is Yuri. Remember, we are not trying to survive this. We are trying to send a message that will echo through history. 23 human ships, all that remained of the Earth Defense Fleet, charged directly at the Worldbreaker. The massive ship's defensive weapons opened fire, destroying the attackers one by one, but humans had learned something important about alien psychology. Most species would retreat when faced with overwhelming odds. Humans became more dangerous. The ship Inchin 2, commanded by Lieutenant Jae-min, broke through the defensive fire and landed on the Worldbreaker's hull. The crew, wearing Eva suits, began cutting through the armor with industrial lasers while the ship's guns held off security forces. "We are inside the firing chamber," Jae-min reported. "Placing charges now." The Worldbreaker began to fire its planet killer weapon, sending a beam of devastating energy toward Earth. But the nuclear explosives placed by the human boarding party detonated at the same moment, creating a chain reaction inside the weapon itself. The explosion that followed was visible from halfway across the galaxy. The Worldbreaker, the pride of the Council fleet, tore itself apart from the inside. The massive ship broke into burning fragments that lit up space like a new star. General Mordock died in the explosion, along with 50,000 crew members and the most powerful weapon the galaxy had ever seen. On Earth, the planet killer beam struck the moon instead of the planet itself, the disrupted weapon missing its target by hundreds of thousands of kilometers. The moon cracked and began to break apart. But Earth survived. The psychological impact of the Worldbreaker's destruction was immediate and devastating. The Council's ultimate weapon, their symbol of absolute power, had been destroyed by a handful of primitive humans willing to sacrifice their lives. Across the galaxy, the simultaneous attacks had crippled the Council's ability to coordinate their forces. With their communication networks down and their supply lines cut, the massive fleet found itself scattered and confused. Resistance forces throughout the galaxy seized the moment. Species that had been oppressed for centuries rose up against their council governors. The rebellion that had started with humanity's refusal to surrender spread like wildfire on the Galactic Council station. The emergency session was in chaos. Half the council members had lost contact with their homeworlds. Reports of rebellion were coming in from every sector. "Order! Order!" Council leader Zendar shouted, trying to restore calm. "General Mordock, what is the status of the fleet?" There was no answer. General Mordock was dead, along with the Worldbreaker and much of the Council's military command. "The humans have done something impossible," reported Intelligence Officer Kethvar. "They have coordinated attacks across the entire galaxy simultaneously. Every major Council installation has been hit. How many ships do they have?" Zendar demanded. "Our best estimate is still less than 100 vessels. But they are fighting as if every ship was worth 1,000. They are using tactics we cannot predict or counter." The truth was dawning on the council members. They were not facing a conventional military force. They were facing an entire species that had decided to fight to the death and was willing to take the rest of the galaxy with them. What do you recommend? Zendar asked quietly. For the first time in galactic history, the Council had no answer. They had built their power on the assumption that overwhelming force could solve any problem. But humans had proven that there were some problems that could not be solved with force alone. 3 days later, a white flag appeared on the communication channels. The Council was ready to negotiate. Admiral Yoon, now speaking for the Resistance Coalition, met with the Council representatives on a neutral space station. The terms were simple.